I'm Rebecca Lindquist, the American Accent Coach, and I'd like to talk to you about speaking in meetings and web conferences. Now, this comes up often with many of my clients who no longer have the luxury of speaking in in-person meetings with colleagues, coworkers, in sales conversations, any type of meeting that we used to have in person, we often have now with people all over the world via phone or web conferencing. So the idea is to improve those communications to be understood the first time. How can we do that? Well, I'd like to give you a few suggestions. First of all, remember to speak deliberately. I'll give you an example of how to speak deliberately. Notice that I'm pausing more frequently, and I'm choosing where I pause more carefully. This type of choosing is called strategic pausing. I'm choosing where I want to pause very carefully. I'm also articulating in a way that is quite clear. This is what I mean by deliberate articulation. You're a little more careful how you pronounce words. Now, some clients tell me this may sound condescending. It might sound like they're talking too slow deliberately, and perhaps implying something about their audience. If that is a fear of yours, make sure that you're getting feedback from your colleagues so that that's not occurring. I can assure you that many times slow speech is preferred to speech that sounds fast. Now, I'm not talking about deliberately speaking slowly. I'm talking about speaking at your normal pace, pausing strategically, and making it more deliberate. In addition, you want to enunciate, so this will add to the clarity. This is articulating clearly. But in addition, you want to use simple vocabulary. This is not the time to experiment with a story that you would try on friends at a dinner party, or verbiage that you don't use every day. Use simplistic language that you can pronounce well and that you're comfortable saying, even if it's repetitive. The goal is to be understood, not to be viewed as an eloquent speaker, but a clear and precise one that people don't have to ask to repeat. Now, the other piece of information or advice that I would give to you is think about ways to engage your audience and give them opportunities either to ask for clarification or to let you know that they're not understanding, especially if you can't see them. Now, many of the tools on the market provide ways to poll your audience. I'm talking specifically about language. What you can do is ask more rhetorical questions. Does that make sense? Is everyone following me? Now, these are the kinds of questions that people will tend not to give a verbal answer to, and that's what you want. You don't want them to take the floor away from you and start talking. What you want is for them to engage with the material. But if someone isn't understanding, and you pause and say, does everyone understand? Are you with me? Does that make sense? People will tend to say something or perhaps type something in a chat window if they are lost. If you don't ask those questions, you won't know. So you'll want to pause more frequently, as I mentioned earlier, and strategically. Speak with clarity. Use the same vocabulary. But here's some new information from the accent world that I'd like to add to my advice today. And that is you want to elongate your vowels. What I'm going to do next is keep my vowels a little bit longer. What's happening is I'm not only pausing, but I'm holding the stressed vowels in the key content words consciously and deliberately longer. Notice that my message changes a bit when I do this. It becomes clearer and easier to understand. Last piece of advice. When you're speaking on the phone or in a meeting, make sure that you're repeating yourself. Now, this may seem strange that I mentioned repeating. Isn't that condescending? In a phone conversation, if people miss something, then the challenge is they are not going to understand your content. So it's much better to tell them the same information several times than to tell them one time and risk them not having that information. So it's critical that you repeat, perhaps using slightly different words or in a different way, such as a summary or a paraphrase. But make sure that you give them the information several times and that that information be short and precise. You don't want to go off on a tangent and talk for a long time on one topic when your audience may not be interested in that topic. So again, I'll take my own advice and repeat. Ask a rhetorical question. Did that answer your question? Give a shorter answer than you would normally give, and then ask the question. Did that respond to your question? Or would you like me to clarify? Offer some options. I hope this information has been helpful to you in speaking on the phone and in web conferencing situations. And if you'd like more structured feedback, make sure that you hire an accent coach to help you do these things more skillfully, more artfully, and more comfortably.